The autumn rain drummed against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Meridian Coffee, one of Chicago's most exclusive coffee houses nestled in the heart of the Gold Coast. Elena Martinez sat in her usual corner booth, fingers wrapped around a steaming latte, reviewing fabric samples for her latest project. At 32, she had built Martinez Interiors from nothing into one of the city's most sought-after design firms, though few people from her past knew about her success. The soft jazz playing overhead was interrupted by a familiar laugh that made her stomach clench. She looked up from her work to see James Fletcher strutting through the entrance, his arm wrapped possessively around a stunning blonde woman. James hadn't changed much in the 3 years since their bitter breakup, still devastatingly handsome with his dark hair perfectly styled, still carrying himself with that insufferable air of superiority that had once charmed her and later suffocated her dreams. The woman beside him was everything Elena had never been during their relationship. Polished, glamorous, wearing what appeared to be designer everything. Her laugh was musical, practiced, the kind that drew attention in crowded rooms. This had to be Rebecca Stone, the marketing executive James had left Elena for, though he'd never admitted it directly. "Darling, this place is absolutely divine," Rebecca cooed, her voice carrying across the intimate space. "I can see why all the important people come here." James spotted Elena before she could look away. His step faltered for just a moment, surprise flickering across his features before being replaced by that smug smile she remembered all too well. He whispered something to Rebecca, who glanced over with obvious curiosity, then began steering his girlfriend directly toward Elena's table. "Elena Martinez," James said, his voice dripping with false warmth. "What a delightful surprise. Still hiding away in coffee shops with your little projects?" Elena set down her cup carefully, forcing her expression to remain neutral. "Hello, James. Rebecca." She nodded politely to both of them, noting how Rebecca's perfectly manicured fingers tightened possessively on James's arm. "Oh my goodness, you're Elena!" Rebecca exclaimed with theatrical enthusiasm. "James has told me so much about you. The interior designer, right? How charming that you're still doing that." The condescension in her tone was razor-sharp, despite the sweet smile. Elena recognized the tactic. James had always been skilled at surrounding himself with people who would echo his dismissive attitude toward her ambitions. "Still doing that, yes," Elena replied evenly, gathering her materials. "Actually, I should be going. I have a client meeting in an hour." James checked his expensive watch with exaggerated concern. "A client meeting? That's wonderful, Elena." "Really? I'm so glad you're keeping busy with your little business. Rebecca and I just came from viewing penthouses downtown. We're looking at something in the range of, well, let's just say it's quite substantial." He paused, clearly expecting some reaction of awe or envy. When Elena simply nodded politely, he continued, "I made senior partner at Morrison & Associates last month, the youngest in the firm's history, actually. We're celebrating tonight at Le Bernardin. You know, the place that requires a 3-month reservation? Unless you know the right people, of course." Rebecca giggled on cue, gazing up at James with practiced adoration. "James knows everyone who matters in this city. It's incredible how connected he is." Elena stood gracefully, slipping her leather portfolio under her arm. "Congratulations on your success, James. I'm genuinely happy for you both." The sincerity in her voice seemed to unsettle him slightly. "Enjoy your dinner." As she walked toward the exit, she heard Rebecca's stage whisper, "She seems nice enough, I suppose?" "A bit plain, but nice. I can see why you outgrew that relationship, darling." Elena's cheeks burned, but she kept walking. 3 years ago, comments like that would have sent her spiraling for days. Now they simply reminded her of how far she'd come from the insecure woman who had once believed she wasn't worthy of James Fletcher's love. Outside, the rain had stopped, and weak sunlight was breaking through the clouds. Elena pulled out her phone and smiled at the message waiting for her. "Looking forward to tonight. Can't wait to see you. V." Vincent Sterling had entered her life 6 months ago like a gentle storm, completely unlike anyone she'd ever known. Where James had been demanding and critical, Vincent was supportive and encouraging. Where James had dismissed her dreams, Vincent celebrated her achievements. Tonight, he was taking her to a gallery opening, not to show her off, but because he genuinely wanted to share something beautiful with her. As Elena walked toward her car, she felt a familiar flutter of anticipation. She had no idea that within a week, her carefully compartmentalized world would collide spectacularly, revealing secrets that would change everything she thought she knew about second chances and the true meaning of success. The private VIP lounge adjacent to the main ballroom hummed with quiet conversations between Chicago's most influential figures. Elena found herself in a surreal situation, chatting comfortably with a tech billionaire's wife about sustainable interior design, while Vincent discussed healthcare policy with a group of politicians and medical professionals. The evening had transformed from nerve-wracking to surprisingly natural. "Elena, right?" A woman approached with a warm smile. "I'm Diana Fletcher, James's sister. I've heard so much about you over the years." Elena's stomach tightened slightly, but Diana's expression seemed genuine, lacking the calculating coldness Elena had come to associate with the Fletcher family. "Diana, nice to meet you. I didn't realize you were here tonight." "I'm on the hospital's board of directors," Diana explained. "Listen, I hope this isn't too forward, but I wanted to apologize for my brother's behavior over the years, and especially tonight. I saw that awkward encounter earlier." Elena was taken aback by the unexpected honesty. "That's very kind of you, but it's not your responsibility to apologize for James." Diana sighed, glancing toward the main ballroom where James and Rebecca could be seen through the glass doors, both looking increasingly agitated. "James has always been difficult. Even as children, he had this need to diminish others to feel important. When you two broke up, I actually hoped it might teach him something about how he treats people." "Did it?" "Apparently not," Diana said, ruefully. "Rebecca called me 3 times today asking about Vincent Sterling. She's convinced there's some angle she can work, some connection she can exploit. James is spiraling because he's realizing he made a massive miscalculation about your worth." Through the glass, Elena could see Rebecca gesticulating animatedly, while James ran his hands through his hair in obvious frustration. Their body language suggested a relationship under severe strain. "The truth is," Diana continued, "Rebecca has been pressuring James to make connections with influential families. The Stone family money comes with strings. Lots of expectations about social climbing and strategic relationships. James thought he was trading up when he left you for her, but he's been miserable." "Diana, you don't need to tell me this," Elena said gently, though she found herself oddly touched by the woman's honesty. "I know, but watching you tonight, seeing how genuinely happy you look with Vincent, how naturally you fit into this world, it made me realize something. You didn't need James Fletcher to become successful. You were always going to find your way to where you belong." Vincent appeared at Elena's side, having finished his policy discussion. "Ladies, I hope I'm not interrupting." "Not at all," Diana said, extending her hand. "Diana Fletcher, it's an honor to meet you, Mr. Sterling. Your foundation's work has been incredible." "Thank you," Vincent replied graciously. "Elena was just telling me about your work on the hospital board. Your advocacy for pediatric mental health services has been remarkable." Diana beamed, clearly pleased that he knew her work. "It's a passion of mine. Elena, you found yourself a keeper." As Diana excused herself, Vincent turned to Elena with concern. "Everything all right? You look thoughtful?" "Just processing," Elena said. "This whole evening has been illuminating." Before Vincent could respond, a commotion near the main entrance caught their attention. Rebecca Stone was standing near the ballroom doors, her voice carrying despite her attempt at discretion. "This is ridiculous, James. Do you understand what you've done? Elena Martinez is dating Vincent Sterling." Vincent Sterling. "And you let her go for what? Your pride? Your need to feel superior?" James's response was quieter, but his defensive posture was visible even from across the room. Other guests were beginning to notice the heated exchange. "She's nobody special," James insisted, though his voice lacked conviction. "A middle-class interior designer who got lucky." "Lucky?" Rebecca's laugh was bitter. "James, look around this room. Look at how people treat her. She's not lucky. She's earned her place here. And you were too blind and arrogant to see what you had?" Vincent placed a protective hand on Elena's back. "Would you like to leave? We don't need to watch this." But Elena found herself fascinated by the unraveling happening before her. Rebecca was systematically dismantling every assumption James had made about value, success, and worthiness. It was like watching someone discover that fool's gold wasn't actually precious. "The worst part," Rebecca continued, her voice rising, "is that I've spent months listening to you complain about how Elena never appreciated your ambition, never supported your goals. But look at her now, confident, successful, surrounded by people who respect her. Maybe the problem was never Elena's ability to appreciate success. Maybe the problem was that you never had anything worth appreciating." The words hung in the air like a verdict. James's face had gone from red to ashen, and several nearby guests were openly staring. Elena felt a strange mix of vindication and sadness, not for James, but for the woman she used to be, who had internalized his criticisms for so long. "I think we should go," Vincent said quietly, sensing the moment had become too public and painful. Elena nodded, but as they moved toward the exit, she caught sight of James looking directly at her. For the first time in all the years she'd known him, James Fletcher looked truly small. Not physically. He was still the same tall, handsome man who had once made her heart race, but something essential had been stripped away, leaving behind. Someone who suddenly understood the magnitude of his own poor judgment. Rebecca stormed past them toward the exit, her designer gown trailing behind her like a battle flag. James followed, his shoulders hunched in defeat. 30 years from now," Vincent said softly as they watched the Fletcher drama conclude, "when people tell stories about tonight's gala, they won't remember the speeches or the donations. They'll remember the night James Fletcher publicly lost, the best thing that ever happened to him, and then lost everything else trying to prove it didn't matter." Elena leaned into Vincent's embrace, feeling the last chains of her past finally break away. "I'm ready to go home now." "To your place or mine?" Vincent asked with a gentle smile. Elena thought of her cozy apartment, her growing business, her carefully built independent life. Then she thought of Vincent's penthouse, his world of influence and possibility, and the future they might build together. "Ours," she said simply. "Let's go to ours." Part 5. New Horizons. 3 months later, Elena stood in the expanded space of Martinez Interiors, now occupying an entire floor of a prestigious downtown building. The walls showcased her latest achievements, a feature in Architectural Digest, a contract with Sterling Technologies to design their new Chicago headquarters, and photographs from the Children's Hospital Gala that had appeared in the Chicago Tribune Society section. Chloe burst through the glass doors, waving a tablet excitedly. "Elena, you have to see this. The Tribune just published their annual list of Chicago's most influential power couples." Elena looked up from the fabric samples she was reviewing, raising an eyebrow. "Please tell me you're not about to show me some ridiculous society gossip." "Number 7, Chloe announced dramatically, turning the tablet to reveal a stunning photograph of Elena and Vincent from the gala. Vincent Sterling, tech mogul and philanthropist, and Elena Martinez, award-winning interior designer and founder of Martinez Interiors. The article calls you a perfect example of how mutual respect and shared values create authentic influence. Elena shook her head, laughing. I still can't believe people care about this stuff. Are you kidding? After the Fletcher spectacle, everyone's been watching your relationship with Vincent. You two have become like the anti-power couple, successful but genuine, influential but humble. It's refreshing in a world full of people like... Chloe gestured vaguely. Speaking of whom, Elena said, have you heard anything about James and Rebecca? Chloe's expression shifted to something between amusement and sympathy. Diana Fletcher called yesterday. Apparently, Rebecca broke off their engagement 2 weeks after the gala. She's now dating some tech startup founder in Silicon Valley. James has been struggling. Elena felt a pang of something. Not regret, exactly, but a kind of melancholy for dreams that had never been meant to survive reality. I hope he finds his way to something real eventually. You're more generous than I would be, Chloe said. But that's probably why you're here and he's... wherever he is. The elevator chimed, and Vincent emerged carrying coffee and pastries from Elena's favorite bakery. Even after months together, Elena still felt that little flutter of happiness when she saw him. He had a way of making ordinary moments feel special without any grand gestures, just his presence, his attention, his quiet certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. Ladies, he said, distributing the coffee with the same care he brought to everything else. How's the Sterling headquarters project coming along? Brilliantly, Elena replied, pulling up the latest designs on her computer. Though I still think it's a conflict of interest for your girlfriend to be designing your office space. Former girlfriend, Vincent corrected gently, producing a small velvet box from his jacket pocket. I was hoping she might consider a promotion. Elena's design studio occupied the top floor of a converted warehouse in River North, its exposed brick walls adorned with her award-winning projects. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of the Chicago skyline, and the late afternoon, sun cast warm geometric patterns across the polished concrete floors. She was reviewing final touches for the Hartwell Hotel redesign when her assistant knocked on the glass door. Elena? Vincent Sterling is here for your dinner appointment. Elena's pulse quickened, as it always did when Vincent arrived. She smoothed her emerald dress and walked to the reception area, where Vincent stood examining one of her featured projects, a stunning penthouse transformation that had landed her on the cover of Architectural Digest. Magnificent work, he said softly, turning as she approached. Vincent possessed an understated elegance that made expensive suits look effortless. His gray eyes held warmth and intelligence, and when he smiled, Elena felt the world narrow to just the two of them. Thank you, she replied, accepting his gentle kiss on her cheek. Ready for a Linnea? As they rode in Vincent's understated but clearly expensive sedan, Elena found herself studying his profile. In 6 months of dating, she'd learned that Vincent was involved in technology and philanthropy, but he deflected questions about specifics, with the same gentle charm he used for everything else. His driver, Thomas, treated him with a deference that suggested more than ordinary wealth, and restaurants that were booked solid somehow always had tables for Vincent Sterling. You're quiet tonight, Vincent observed, reaching for her hand. James showed up at Meridian today, Elena admitted, with his new girlfriend. It was awkward. Vincent's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Did he upset you? Not in the way you might think, Elena said carefully. Seeing them together just reminded me how different my life is now. How different I am. Different how? Elena gazed out at the city lights beginning to twinkle in the gathering dusk. 3 years ago, I would have gone home and cried. I would have dissected every word, every glance, wondering if I was pretty enough, successful enough, worthy enough. Tonight I just felt grateful. Vincent squeezed her hand. Grateful? That I'm not her. That I'm not still the woman who thought she needed James Fletcher's approval to validate her existence. When they arrived at a Linnea, Elena noticed the immediate shift in the staff's behavior. The maitre d' personally escorted them to a private table. The sommelier appeared without being summoned, and the chef himself emerged to greet Vincent. Elena had experienced exceptional service before, but this felt different. More like reverence than hospitality. "Vincent," she said once they were alone with their wine. "Who exactly are you?" He paused, his fork halfway to his mouth. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I've been dating you for 6 months, and I know you like Ethiopian coffee, you read 3 newspapers every morning, you have a scar on your left hand from a childhood accident, and you make me laugh until my sides hurt. But I don't know what you do for work, where you grew up, or why every restaurant in Chicago treats you like visiting royalty." Vincent set down his fork and leaned back, studying her face. "Does it matter?" "It matters because I care about you," Elena said simply, "and because I've spent too much of my life with someone who kept secrets." "James had secrets?" "James had other women," Elena said quietly. "He also had debts, lies, and a cocaine problem. He hid until the very end. I learned that transparency isn't optional in relationships. It's everything." Vincent was quiet for a long moment, swirling the wine in his glass. "You're right," he said finally. "And you deserve honesty. My family has been in technology since the early days of Silicon Valley. I manage our charitable foundation and some business interests. We try to keep a low profile. We? My brother Marcus and I. Our grandfather built Sterling Technologies. From nothing. When he died, he left us with a responsibility to use our resources wisely." Elena felt pieces clicking into place. "Sterling Technologies? The Sterling Technologies?" Vincent nodded, looking almost embarrassed. "Marcus runs the business side. I focus on philanthropy and social impact investing. It's why I was at that arts fundraiser where we met." Elena sat back, processing this information. Sterling Technologies was one of the largest private tech companies in the world, known for their innovative software and their founder's legendary privacy. Vincent Sterling wasn't just wealthy. He was one of the most influential people in the country. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" she asked. "Because of how you're looking at me right now," Vincent said softly. "Like I've become someone different. I'm the same person who burns toast and can't fold fitted sheets properly. The same person who thinks your laugh is the most beautiful sound in the world." Elena reached across the table for his hand. "You're right. You are the same person. But, Vincent, next week is the Children's Hospital Gala. You said you wanted me there as your date." "I do want you there." "That's going to be a very public debut for us, isn't it?" Vincent nodded slowly. "The Chicago Tribune will be there, Forbes, several society photographers. Are you okay with that?" Elena thought of James's condescending smile, Rebecca's dismissive laugh, all the people over the years who had made her feel small and insignificant. Then she thought of her thriving business, her growing confidence, and the man across from her who saw her exactly as she was and loved her for it. "I'm more than okay with it," she said, lifting her wine glass. "I'm ready." Part 3. The Grand Revelation. The Ritz-Carlton. Chicago blazed with light on the evening of the Children's Hospital Gala. Red carpet stretched from the street to the grand entrance, flanked by photographers and society reporters. Elena stood before her full-length mirror, adjusting the final details of her midnight blue gown, a stunning creation by a local designer she'd discovered and promoted. Her hair was swept into an elegant chignon, and her grandmother's pearl earrings caught the light as she moved. "You look absolutely radiant," said Chloe Rivera, Elena's best friend and business partner, who was zipping up her own silver dress. Vincent won't be able to take his eyes off you. I can't believe I'm nervous, Elena admitted, smoothing her skirt. It's just a party. It's not just a party, and you know it, Chloe replied gently. This is you stepping into Vincent's world completely. Are you ready for that level of scrutiny? Before Elena could answer, her phone chimed with a text from Vincent. Thomas is downstairs. You're going to be the most beautiful woman there tonight. The ride to the Ritz-Carlton passed in a blur of city lights and anticipation. Vincent looked devastating in his perfectly tailored tuxedo, and the way he looked at Elena made her feel like she was floating. When they arrived, the photographers immediately began snapping pictures, calling out questions about Vincent's date. Just smile and stay close, Vincent murmured, his hand warm and steady at her back as they navigated the red carpet. You belong here. The ballroom was a wonderland of crystal chandeliers, flowing champagne, and Chicago's elite. Elena recognized faces from newspaper society pages, tech magazines, and political coverage. This wasn't just wealthy people having dinner. This was power, influence, and old money gathered in one room. Vincent! A tall man with similar features approached them, accompanied by an elegant woman with silver hair. You must be Elena. I'm Marcus Sterling, Vincent's brother, and this is my wife, Catherine. Elena shook their hands, noting Marcus's firm grip and assessing gaze. It's wonderful to meet you both. Vincent speaks of you often. All good things, I hope, Catherine said with a warm smile. We've been eager to meet the woman who's made our Vincent so happy. As they chatted, Elena felt herself relaxing into the conversation. Marcus and Catherine were genuinely kind, asking thoughtful questions about her work and sharing amusing stories about Vincent's childhood. The evening was progressing beautifully until Elena heard a familiar voice cutting through the crowd. Well, I'll be damned! Elena Martinez! She turned to see James Fletcher approaching with Rebecca Stone on his arm. Rebecca looked stunning in a designer gown that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. But there was something sharp in her expression, like a predator who'd spotted prey. James, Elena said evenly. Rebecca, I didn't expect to see. You here? Morrison and Associates bought a table, James explained, his chest puffing with pride. Rebecca's family has been major donors to Children's Hospital for years. Haven't you, darling? Rebecca smiled tightly. The Stone Foundation has been very generous, yes. Though I have to say, Elena, you look absolutely lovely tonight. That dress is charming. Very appropriate for someone in your position. The subtle dig hung in the air like smoke. Elena felt Vincent tense beside her, but she maintained her composure. Thank you. It's always nice to support such an important cause. Oh, yes, James said, glancing around the opulent ballroom. Though, I imagine the ticket prices for an event like this are quite steep. What did you say you'd do again, Ethan? Vincent extended his hand with cool politeness. It's Vincent! Vincent Sterling! The effect was immediate and electric. James's face went pale, then flushed red. Rebecca's mouth opened slightly, her composure cracking for the first time all evening. Marcus, who had been chatting with other guests, looked over with interest. Sterling? James repeated weakly. As in,